whenever Corey was a little boy, he and I went to a mission trip to Chile. And as soon as we landed on the plane, they told me, they said, you're preaching tonight in La Serena. I'm like, okay. I don't know what to preach. I don't have a clue what to preach. The Lord told me, he says, just tell your testimony. I'm like, whew. What do you do when your testimony ain't over? You tell the story as it is up to that point. Because more people will learn and appreciate where you bleed than just where you succeed. And so I got up, I shared my testimony for where I was in the juncture of my life, gave an altar call, and over 400 plus people responded to the altar call. And this is what I did not know about the nation of Chile. When you go into a foreign country, you better learn the culture before you get there, or it may wear you out. We had 400 plus people respond to the altar call. I went down like I would here. I started praying for people before the missionary could stop me. Then the missionary came over and whispered in my ear. He says, you cannot do this. I said, why can I not do this? He said, because now you have to pray for everyone that responded, or everyone, including those that are watching, are going to be offended at you, and nobody will come hear you again. For an hour and a half to 2 hours, I'm praying for people. I'm going to be there all week. It's going to be a pointless week if I start out by offending people. And I'm praying for people, praying for people, praying for people. And I mean, it's a great service. Everything's great. Everything's good. And I get to the end and I say, has everybody been prayed for? And there's a young man. He's seated back over here. And he raises his left hand and wants to be prayed for. And his father helps him come to the front. Now what's interesting is I'm watching him walk as he drags his right foot and his right arm hangs down. The closer he gets to me, I see the right side of his face is completely drooped down. And his right side of his body is paralyzed. The father tells the story that he was born, and through his birth, the right side of his body has been paralyzed. He's been paralyzed for 25 years, his entire life. Now, one of the things that I do know is that will intimidate you. It gets worse. A missionary says they want you to pray for him. I said, okay. So I go to pray for him, and the Lord, first time this ever happened to me in my life, the Lord said, pray with your eyes open. I'm like, oh no. No, if I pray with my eyes open, then my faith will be intimidated. So I'd rather ignore the issue so that I can have a presupposition or a thought about faith, because I really don't have to face the issue face to face. Because it's easy to have faith when you're not in a fight. But when the fight is staring you right in the face, fear and faith are present at the same time. And so I sit there and I look at the young man, and I told him, I said, just close your eyes. Problem is, when you have paralysis on your right side, that eye don't close. It's worse. So now I got a guy doing this. I go to pray for him with eyes open, intimidated, scared to death. But I also know I'm not the healer. I'm just going to call on the healer. So as I prayed for him, I began to watch his face go back into position. The missionary looked at me. I looked at the missionary and freaked out. See, the problem is faith demands our eyes to be open so that we can actually see what God is doing. Because when you see God start doing one thing, you know He's going to continue, because He who began a good work in you is faithful to complete it until the day of Christ Jesus. Next thing I know, that young man takes his right hand, puts it in his ear. When he put his right hand in the air, his dad took off that way in a full-blown run. I'm losing my ever-loving mind. I'm looking at the missionary, he's looking at me, and I'm freaking out. I'm like, God is actually doing this. Next thing I know, I continue to pray, because he ain't done. And that young man hit and went to the left as his dad took off to the right. And I'm telling you, 1,000 people in that building took off chasing after both of them. Why? Because when God does something in your life, you'll take up your mat and you won't just walk, you'll run.